Welcome to the Craig and Greg Show, presented by Maximize Leadership. Here are Craig Owens and Greg Harris.
Hey, welcome to the Craig and Greg Show. I'm Craig. This is Greg. We are approaching a special day that we shouldn't just have one day for this. We call it Thanksgiving Day, but we really should have every day is a day of giving thanks. We need to cultivate that gratitude. And so, Greg, as we start off today, I have a copy of my book in print form, and I'm going to read the dedication because
I have a tissue.
You're mentioned in here.
Okay.
My dedication for this book was for those who believed in me before I even believed in myself.
Oh, amen to that, buddy.
And one of the guys listed here is my covenant brother. And I don't know if this is the first edition, but it is autographed, and I am grateful and thankful for your investment in my life.
Likewise, brother. We've been at this 25 years, 26 years, maybe. I'm trying to think of the times that we met because our kids were little.
No, we're almost on 30 years.
30 years?
Yeah.
Well, my memory is not the best, so
you are a little older than I am.
I am a little older than you.
But I'm grateful for your.
I'm going to do it this way. So, get this book. It's excellent.
Thank you for that.
I didn't help write it. So that's why it's excellent.
Well, yeah,
I maybe did a little bit. I maybe contributed.
So let's talk about. We've done an ongoing series of these things that build our leadership and things that can completely undermine the foundation and allow your leadership to go absolutely nowhere. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on this thing that tears leadership down, but what is a natural thing that far too many of us do far too often that is the exact opposite of giving thanks that undermines our leadership?
So Thanksgiving is one of my favorites because my grandpa taught me to expand my plate. Or when someone's not watching, you could put more on the plate and they didn't know you went for seconds because you didn't leave your seat. So Thanksgiving is one of my favorites, and the food is so good. It really is lots to be thankful for. But so the builder killer this time is gratitude or criticism. And they couldn't be more opposite.
Yeah.
So my question to all of us and the viewers as well, to become less critical is to be more grateful or thankful. When you release some things like bitterness or disappointment as a leader, you expand the gratitude potential. Your gratefulness is just a bigger bucket.
Right.
And I do believe it's more fun to hang around people who are grateful.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've talked about that. Like he probably doesn't need to be in our inner circle if he's going to be so negative.
Yeah.
Because it takes the wind out of everyone's sails.
It's almost like being around a vampire that's just like sucking the life out of you.
So I had a leadership coach that I enjoyed when I first started my career, and he goes, one thing I do when I meet people is I wait to see if they're a Hoover. And I thought, a Hoover? I said, Hoover, I mean, how do you spell that? Hoover. Hoover. And he goes, a vacuum.
Yeah.
Not to clean up. They just suck the life out of you or others or the cause or the company. Yep. And I don't need too many Hoovers in my life.
That's for
and I said, oh, that was brilliant. And so, and I aimed, appreciate your dedication, but I aimed to be the opposite of a Hoover with you. Like when you first said, hey, I'm thinking about this book, you got to do it. I'll help any way I can. Yep. And then we brainstormed, and it was all your thoughts and efforts, but you just needed to be other people. Betsy, I'm sure, was your number one cheerleader, but shout out to Betsy. But I think that's what we need to break through and become bigger or better, not for ourselves. And gratitude is so enticing. Mm-hmm. I mean, give me an example, even in your life, of someone who's been so grateful, you're like, I want to help more, or whatever the response is.
Well, when I think through teammates that I've worked with, and if you say, well, who are your top on your list, immediately what comes to my mind are people that were constantly going, you know what, this was challenging, but I was grateful for.
Yeah.
But and the people that I struggle to remember from the past are those ones that, like, now when I start thinking about them, those are the people that just like came in and just all the time there's like this dark cloud hanging over their head. But you know what? Why is it that it's so easy to complain? Because I mean, so many people do it. When you get on social media, that's what I just go right past all the ones where people are going, this sucks. This
is
awful,
horrible.
this
I'm
is
so
terrible.
offended. Or yeah.
Okay, anybody can do that.
Right.
It doesn't really take a high IQ or a lot of leadership acumen to point out things that are wrong.
Right.
But why do we naturally do that?
I think it's easy to critique because there's something in our flawed humanity that makes us feel a little better after we do. This is not for this particular lesson. It may be one for episodes, but I believe people have an emotional totem pole. They know they're never going to get to the top, but they don't want to be in the bottom. Yeah. And they like to be above a few people just so that they say they won. Right. And I think the criticism, I was at a restaurant the other day and I happened to say, hey, I want to compliment, so the manager came by, and I love it. How was your experience, et cetera? Yes, it was great. I want to say really great things about Mary. And he stopped. He was probably going to move on because they're so conditioned. Like, if you stop at a table and they complain, I can only get 5 complaints. Otherwise, I won't get any work done as a manager. Yep. So I said, I want to compliment you on Mary. He came back and I said, no, really, because the comment cards that you have in some restaurants, now they do it digitally, but comment cards were always about complaints.
Yes.
They were never a positive compliment.
Nope.
What I love about like TripAdvisor and others is you can write about someone and corporately they read it. So I think as leaders, we need to speak into people's lives positive. It's way too easy to say, you didn't do that well, Joe. That was... you left our client unhappy, versus find the things that Joe is doing well and say, hey, Joe, just one quick feedback, versus only complaining like the stick versus the carrot.
But I think I was in a grocery store once, and the lady that was checking out my food, and she did a couple of special things with bagging, and I told her, thank you for doing that. When I left and I'm going by the greeters at the front door, I said, hey, I would like to pass along a compliment about one of your clerks over here, one of your fellow teammates. And so she goes, okay.
What do we do with that?
And so she went over and grabbed a form, and the only form that they had was for complaints. And I said,
literally, it showed complaints.
I don't have a complaint. I have a compliment. And so she says, well, I guess I got this manager's card. We could write something down. And so I wrote down, what I wanted to say about her. But then I also said to the manager, I said, you're going to get what you ask for. So if the only thing you're asking for is complaints, that's all you're going to get. And so I think that sometimes we as leaders, I think that we need to do that same thing. First of all, we need to check ourselves and make sure we're not the complainer. But when other people on our team come to us and complain, I think we need to shut that down real quick. I don't really have a complaint card here. Let's let's find a different way to spin this. I realize you're upset about that, but instead of complaining about it, let's talk about how we could make it better.
Right. Do you think sometimes, and I'll put my 2 cents in, sometimes people feel to be that editor, the critic, the film critic, is so empowering. Yeah. Well, anybody can say they didn't care for the lighting. That actor's accent wasn't believable. That you could tell that was a set that wasn't really shot in that city in the movie. Well, that's great, but then what?
Right.
And so I think partly is, do you just have negativity in you? And so that'd be my challenge as leaders. I have had to wrestle with the environment may be negative, but I really have to defend myself not to be negative or critique. Yeah. It's too easy to gossip or critique about things. And I don't know what really this psychological thing is for us, but for some people, and I've been around a few partners of mine and cohorts that they really don't dare to give a compliment because maybe it's giving something away that they'll never get back. Yeah. And it's a scarcity mindset, but it's like, so why wouldn't you say something nice? I'm sure the person needs it. I don't know what they came to work with, but I'm willing to say something nice or encouraging. I think that does build gratefulness in others. Like, I'm just grateful to work here.
Absolutely.
I'm grateful to be a part of the team. And I think that's a real challenge. Criticism to me doesn't take much. It's like, if you wanted to be have zero character, it doesn't take anything to be zero character or have zero principles. So I really do believe with criticism, it doesn't take much to criticize. You actually, I could say, well, that blue is a little dark on you. It's a great looking shirt, by the way, Craig. But my point is, you could find something,
sure,
or I did. You said too much, Greg. Oh, thanks, Greg. Really appreciate. So you can always find stuff.
Right.
I believe one of the best places for leaders, myself included, trying to present that culture is a place of safety. Because criticism really does make you be defensive,
Right.
or shut down.
Well, and I think, there is something to be said about healthy, positive critique.
Yeah.
You can't just tell somebody that they're wonderful all the time.
Right.
But I think that you need to have that first, because there needs to be that, like you said, it's a safe thing. People need to know that I really care about them as a person.
Yeah.
That I'm not just walking through just handing out compliments like I'm throwing out candy at a parade and I don't really care who gets it. I'm just, because I just have to. And, but when my praise of somebody, when my gratitude that I express to somebody is very specific, I really appreciated this. And then later on, when you have to say to them, hey, you know what? You did a lot of hard work on this report.
Right.
Is it all right if I share with you 2 thoughts that I had about how I think that report can get even better the next time? They feel, and I hate the little, listen, if this is, you read this in a book somewhere, I hate this thing where they call it like a sandwich. You give somebody a compliment and then you tell them something you don't like, and then you give them another compliment. Don't make it a formula. You make it a formula, they're going to see right through you. Oh, you're just doing the formula. Or when you say, I really like this, but you've just canceled out what you've said. But you have to be able to say to the person, they have to know that you really have their best interest at heart, and that you're saying, this report was wonderful. Sometime, when you have the time, I took down 3 different quick bullet points that I think might help you even make this even better next time. And then, then you're expressing gratitude for what they did, and you're not putting them on guard for that, because it's so easy to just go to the criticism.
To me, most leaders, because we're so busy, we've got so much coming at us.
Right.
The bandwidth is just way faster, way thicker, and it's a little tough to stay grounded. And I think gratefulness is a grounding, where the real challenge for us as leaders is to find it in us. I'm grateful. And then you'll teach grateful, show grateful, they'll observe grateful in you, the leader. And I think that's the tough part, is to get off that treadmill and say, you know what, I'm going to be grateful and find things that are good, and they're everywhere. But it's a mindset from a heart set.
Yeah, I like those 2 words.
Yeah, to me, the heart set is, how's your heart set? It's in gratefulness or it's in negativity, criticism.
Right.
There's a book out, I won't do the whole title, but it basically is, if it's the no bad person rule. It's an HR book, and it's about, you don't want bad people in your organization. But if you allow criticism, the only people that will remain will be the bad, critical people. All the generous and grateful people will move on because it's unhealthy for them. Yep. And they know they have something to offer and be cherished for. So as leaders, I've learned that the hard way. I've seen leaders fall apart because they were critical, and because it's in them, the heart set. The mindset is, they didn't come in on time, so they're cheating the company. Did we meet with them?
Right. Did you ask them?
Did they have car troubles?
Right.
Was there a childcare issue? Whatever. And some people will just get to that spot, and it's exhausting for others.
And you know what? I think you just brought something up there. I wonder how many of our complaints and negativity come from our own assumptions, because we didn't sit down to ask. We said that. Oh, I bet you. We just assume. I bet you that this is what's going through their brain. Really? Right? Did you actually ask them? But I think that's why it's very important. And we've talked about this, I don't know, umpteen times in our.
What number is that? Umpteen.
It's beyond.
It's big. Yeah.
As a leader, you can't just sit isolated in your office. You got to get out around your teammates, and so that way you know how to specifically compliment them.
Yeah.
You know how to express your gratitude in a way that they get it. We've talked about love languages, so express that love in an appropriate way. But then I think that also you're developing that relationship to be able to say, I just saw something from you that seems a bit out of character. It seems like it wasn't the norm. So hey, let's talk. What's going on?
Right.
And you're expressing, I really care about you as a person, not just as one of the cogs in the wheel of the operation.
I've been around a few leaders. Sometimes it was to me, and other times, many more, I watched others. The gratefulness is almost protected. Like, I don't want to be too grateful because then people won't work hard. Okay, so it's your mindset.
Yeah.
It's just it's almost backwards. It's almost old school. I don't even know what old school is anymore. But one of the things I think that's fascinating about gratefulness, it's one thing to say I'm grateful. It's another thing to show it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's banter on some ideas of what would be a leader's way to show gratefulness. So it's one thing to say, yeah, I really appreciate her. Does she know it?
Right.
And did you show it? Yeah. So let's give an example that you've.
Well, so let's start with words. I think that they are very underrated at times. In the New Testament, the Greek word that's used for blessing it's a compound word. It's eulogio. Eu means good, and logio is logos, words. So what the Bible assumes is that if I say a good word to you, I'm actually giving you a blessing. I'm actually pronouncing a blessing over you. Yeah. And I think that's one of the most underrated things. Like you said, if you ask a leader, what do you think about them? I really appreciate them. Have you told them?
Right.
Do they know that you know?
Mm-hmm.
What they're doing on their job. Are you around? And so I think that it has to start off with words, regardless of what somebody's love language is. You never go wrong with expressing. Right. It's a blessing to speak those grateful words towards them.
One of my experiences in leaders who kind of were a little bit cheap with compliments and encouragement, they would say this, well, I don't want you to get a big head.
Yeah.
And I have learned, leaders, just please take it from my lessons. If I decided to critique someone, they already had a low self-esteem because I already beat them up. That was silly of me. That wasn't leadership. But when you say great things, they almost want more responsibility. They want more accountability. They want a bigger reason to be on this team and give the efforts. But sometimes we're cheap about it, thinking, well, I don't want you to get a big head. I have learned I want all teammates to have big heads.
Yeah.
And then pour it out.
Give them something to aspire to.
Yes.
Say, this is, I believe, that's what I just put in my dedication. I just read to you that you believed something in me before I believed it in myself. Mm-hmm. That's not giving me a big head. That's giving me something to aspire to.
Right.
And if I get to that spot, then I have more gratitude to be able to give to other people. And I feel less like criticizing because of that.
I'm going to rewind a few minutes. I don't know where it was in this podcast, but you talked about assumptions and you assume someone, and I think that's probably one of my biggest lessons as a leader that I learned. And then I've seen some really bad outcomes for other leaders when they made an assumption, lost their cool, made an accusation, and they had to eat, humble pie, and it didn't taste very good. Yeah. And I think the assumptions really does move us from criticism, because I'm assuming they're lazy, or I'm assuming versus I'm grateful they're here, and I don't know why they're 7 minutes late, but I'm sure they'll give me the 7 minutes somewhere in this 8-hour day, whatever that looks like, versus trying to control, they showed up right on time, so I know they're working hard. That's an assumption too.
Yeah.
I won't get into it on this video because it needs to be PG rated, but assumption or assume, you can break the word down, and it is embarrassing. So for us leaders, as we defend ourselves to not be critical, we don't want to assume, but I think, I believe this gratefulness is so intoxicating. It's such a draw.
Yes.
You can belong to a church, you be in a neighborhood, you can work in a corporation, you can help in a school, whatever it is. And those roles where you're like, I'm appreciated. I know humanity isn't perfect, but I've learned criticism never gets someone there.
Absolutely.
No, it's
you're not going to criticize somebody to greatness.
No, but yet I believe the person, I've been around a number of leaders, partners, they've been critical because they're not amazing. They're not excellent. They struggle. Right. But they were unwilling to share that to the staff.
Right.
And so the staff thinks, oh yeah, he thinks he walks on water. And of course he didn't, he drowned. But the point is the criticism is so easy for that because you want to keep them down. Well, why? to me, water rises, all ships go.
Absolutely.
I don't get why you'd want to critique. And I think the critical or comment cards that in a grocery store or whatever that was, restaurants, like, why would you only have critic or negative feedback? Like, we want to get better. Well, getting better could be, hey, Mary, you did amazing. Keep doing that. And she got better.
Right.
Because she's figuring out other ways to wow the customer.
And then everybody else gets better too as a result.
Right. Yeah, they want to be like Mary.
Right.
Be like Mary. Just kidding. Yeah, absolutely. There's a quote I'm going to share with you. Gratitude is not only the greatest of virtues, but it's the parents of all virtues.
Yeah.
And I thought about that. So it's not talent. It's not pedigree. It's not ethnicity. It's not education. It's not learned skills. To me, it's a heart issue of being grateful.
Yep.
What a wonderful place to lead. And shepherd leadership is about that, right? I'm grateful for the people I'm around, and I'm going to serve them no matter what.
Yep.
Yeah. I just
Well, let me wrap up with a challenge that it's going to sound very simple, but once you start on Thanksgiving Day, pull out a journal, and every day for the next 365 days, write down at the end of the day one thing that you are grateful for that day, and try not to repeat yourself, so that at the end of the year you have 365 unique things down. You're going to say, that sounds pretty easy. I bet you once you get to the end of the first month, you're going to, man, what am I? But when your brain is programmed to look for something for which you can give thanks, guess what's going to happen? That's what you're going to spot all the time. And so then that gratitude is going to begin to grow in your life. It's going to begin to grow in the lives of everybody around you on your team. And you're going to completely overwhelm that leadership killer of criticism, because you're going to be such a grateful person. We're grateful for you. We're grateful for your input. Keep tweeting at us at Maximize Podcast. And check us out as well on our website at maximizeleadership.com. And we look forward to coming back real soon and giving you some more great content. We truly are thankful for you. Have a great Thanksgiving.
Get in touch with Craig and Greg through Twitter at Maximize Podcast or at MaximizeLeadership.com. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes of The Craig and Greg Show.